General Hospital has revealed the moment when Dante collapsed to the floor, his body crumbling like a tower struck down. Lulu's heart-wrenching scream echoed through the café, shattering the already tense atmosphere. Charlotte stood frozen nearby, her wide eyes filled with terror as she watched blood pour from Dante's wound, staining the tiled floor crimson. For a moment, an eerie silence blanketed the scene, broken only by the hurried footsteps of the retreating sniper outside. Lulu rushed to Dante's side, her trembling hands pressing desperately against the wound to stop the bleeding. Warm blood seeped through her fingers, amplifying her panic. "Dante! Don't leave me," she cried, but Dante could only weakly open his eyes, his breath shallow, his face growing paler. Charlotte began to sob uncontrollably, her gaze frantic as she watched her mother kneeling beside Dante, utterly helpless. Valentin, who had been standing frozen, finally snapped out of his shock. He stepped forward, his face pale but his eyes sharp with urgency. Seeing the blood pooling on the floor, Valentin realized his worst fear had come true. Not only was his life in danger, but now those around him were being dragged into the peril as well. He cast a quick glance out the window, where the sniper had retreated, but saw nothing beyond the dense shadows cloaking the narrow streets of Prague. Questions swirled in Valentin's mind like sharp daggers. Who had sent the sniper? The target had been him, but why? What did the person behind this attack want from him? Though Valentin had long lived under the shadow of hidden enemies, this time felt different. Something more sinister, a larger conspiracy, was looming. Amid the chaos, Lulu tried to call for emergency services, but the weak phone signal in the unfamiliar city hindered her efforts. Valentin pulled out his own phone, swiftly contacting trusted allies from his underground network for assistance. In that moment, his thoughts extended beyond saving Dante. He needed to ensure Charlotte and Lulu's safety. The sniper could strike again at any time. Not far away, hidden in a dark corner, the sniper vanished into the night, carrying the weight of his failure. But this failure was not the end, it was merely the beginning of a more ruthless plan. Brennan, the mastermind behind the attack, had meticulously plotted Valentin's demise. He knew that if Valentin were exposed, all their illicit dealings would come to light, marking the end of his own life. However, with the missed shot, Brennan now faced a dangerous choice: continue the assault or risk his own downfall. Meanwhile, Lulu and Charlotte could only hope that Dante would survive, while Valentin, torn between rage and responsibility, prepared to face a battle he had never anticipated. The grim truth gradually unfolded through the veil of secrecy. The mastermind behind the assassination attempt was Brennan, a man with a dark past filled with clandestine dealings with Valentin. Brennan was not just a shadowy partner but a survivor who thrived on cunning and ruthlessness. He knew Valentin well, a sharp, intelligent man who also carried deadly secrets. Their past transactions had yielded great benefits, but now Brennan felt as though he was walking a tightrope over a chasm filled with waiting enemies. Brennan understood that once Valentin was exposed, their dealings would also come to light. This not only threatened Valentin's life but also placed Brennan himself in the crosshairs of dangerous foes. To protect himself, Brennan devised a bold plan: eliminate Valentin before everything spiraled out of control. For him, it was not just the only way to keep his secrets but also an opportunity to sever ties with a perilous past. However, the assassination did not go as planned. What seemed like a perfect shot missed its mark. The bullet intended to kill Valentin struck Dante instead. A bystander unrelated to the shadowy war. Watching from afar, Brennan realized his plan had failed. Instead of resolving his problem, he had created a larger threat. Dante was now gravely injured, Lulu and Charlotte were engulfed in panic, and Valentin, though unharmed, was more suspicious and alert than ever. A single missed shot had dragged them all into a deadly spiral where no one could predict what would happen next. In Brennan's mind, new scenarios began to form. He knew this failure would compel Valentin to hunt down the person responsible, awakening his fierce survival instincts. Valentin would not stop until he uncovered who had tried to kill him, leaving Brennan with little time to act. He needed to either disappear or execute another plan to ensure his survival. Meanwhile, the consequences of Brennan's missed shot rippled further than he could have anticipated. Lulu and Charlotte were not only grappling with the fear of losing Dante but were also being pulled deeper into the dangerous world Valentin was trying to shield them from. Dante, the unintended victim, now lay at the center of a conspiracy he knew nothing about. And Valentin, filled with both worry and hatred, stood on the brink of a relentless battle against those who dared to target him and his loved ones. Lulu had been fortunate to find Valentin and Charlotte in a small cafe in the heart of Prague, where the soft afternoon light streamed through the glass windows, creating a seemingly peaceful yet tense atmosphere. When she saw Charlotte sitting nearby, a glimmer of hope lit up Lulu's eyes, but as Valentin approached, unease quickly returned. He was a man who always made her feel unsettled with his secrets and bold, sometimes reckless, decisions. Knowing she had little time, Lulu seized the opportunity to speak directly. She pleaded with Valentin, urging him to send Charlotte back to Port Charles, where she could be surrounded by safety and the love of family. A place where everyone could work together to protect her. Lulu used every argument she could think of, from Charlotte's need for a stable life and education to the fact that the child shouldn't have to live in fear or constantly be on the run with her father. However, Valentin quietly shook his head, his gaze steely. He didn't need many words to express his opposition, but he eventually spoke, his voice low and cold. He explained that the people hunting him were not ordinary criminals. They were willing to target anyone connected to him, including Charlotte. It wasn't just a possibility, it was a reality Valentin had faced before. He recounted a time when Charlotte had narrowly escaped death after being mistaken for him by his pursuers. It was a memory he never wanted to relive. Valentin continued, his voice heavy with both guilt and responsibility. He didn't deny that Charlotte's life was unstable, but he insisted that to protect her, he was willing to do anything, even if it meant keeping her by his side, running forever. Port Charles is not a sanctuary, Valentin said, his eyes piercing through Lulu. Sending Charlotte there won't make her safer. On the contrary, it will only make her a clearer target. Lulu was both shocked and deeply troubled by Valentin's resoluteness, but she couldn't deny the fear in his words. She looked at Valentin, the man who had caused so much turmoil in her life, now standing before her, ready to sacrifice everything to protect his daughter. Lulu understood that Valentin's love for Charlotte was genuine, but it was that very love that turned him into an extremist in his decisions. As the conversation between Lulu and Valentin grew increasingly tense, the atmosphere in the cafe seemed to thicken. Lulu fought with logic, while Valentin stood firm, his eyes never leaving her. Just then, Dante unexpectedly appeared at the door, entering like a gust of wind that disrupted everything. Valentin immediately stiffened, his gaze turning icy, filled with both anger and suspicion. To him, Dante's arrival was unacceptable, and in that moment, he concluded that Lulu had betrayed him. Valentin took a step forward, his voice cutting through the cafe's fragile calm. "You brought him here?" he asked, his tone low and dangerous, leaving Lulu to frantically shake her head in denial. Dante, standing behind Lulu, tried to remain calm. He explained that he had come alone, with no one following him, and his only purpose was to ensure Lulu's safety. However, his explanation only deepened Valentin's distrust. His sharp eyes scrutinized Dante's every move, searching for hidden threats. Years of living on the run and fearing betrayal had turned Valentin into someone who saw danger everywhere. To him, anyone who approached could be a hidden dagger in the dark. And this time, his vigilance was not unfounded. Outside, a sniper had silently taken aim at him through the cafe window. The rifle, silent but deadly, was ready to fire and end its target. In a fleeting moment of heightened awareness, Valentin sensed the danger. He quickly pulled the curtain to block the sniper's view, but this action only prompted the assassin to fire immediately. A loud gunshot shattered the cafe's silence. Lulu screamed, and Valentin instinctively ducked. But when he looked up, he realized the bullet hadn't hit him. Dante, in a split second, had lunged forward to shield Lulu. The bullet tore through his shoulder, and blood quickly soaked his shirt. He collapsed to the floor, his heavy breathing filling the tense air. Lulu rushed to his side, her hands trembling as she tried to stop the bleeding. Charlotte stood nearby, her eyes brimming with tears as she witnessed the horrifying scene. Valentin, though accustomed to danger, stood frozen for a moment, staring at the man who had just saved his daughter, now lying injured from a bullet meant for him. The sniper, realizing the mission had failed, quickly withdrew before being discovered. But his presence left an unsettling question lingering in the air: who had sent him, and why? In that moment, all eyes turned to Dante, now unconscious in a pool of blood, while Valentin realized his greatest fear: his enemies, lurking in the shadows, had finally struck.